Hi, cutie pies. This is Nicki. I am coming to you with The Good Doctor, Season 3, Episode 3, called Claire. Oh my gosh, this is one of my favorite episodes of all the seasons on The Good Doctor. So Claire is up to do her first surgery, so we're very excited about that. So she wakes up and, she's going through her whole routine, getting ready, doing everything. And she's just thinking about it's her first surgery, and you could tell she's a little bit nervous and everything when she thinks about it as well. And then her mom comes to her and she gives her urine sample, and she asks Claire, like, what do you want my urine sample? She's like, just put it beside my bag. I'll have them check it at work. Because remember, that's one of the conditions that Claire's mom has to do in order to live with her. So then we see Claire meets with two foster children. I think it was Michelle and Trish. And so the oldest she's in pain. And Sean tells her, oh, it's going to be a gallbladder surgery. This is going to be your first surgery. You're going to get it to have the first surgery. So she's she's excited about it, but she's like, she doesn't want to be so overwhelmed with, she doesn't want to think too hard on it and everything. So then we see Dr. Melendez and Dr. Lynn butt heads about the surgery because he says there's a lot of scarring and things, and he feels like he should perform the surgery. And Dr. Lynn said, well, let's see what Claire says. And Claire feels torn between the two because he's like, I am the operating, he's over, the surgery and everything. So he was like, it's my decision. And she was like, we need to see, what they say. And so then Claire's just like, oh, because she's torn between, and she wants to do the surgery, but also she doesn't want to go against, her boss. So she just tells so she's starting to say she agrees with Dr. Melendez, but lucky for her, Sean is in the office as well when they're discussing all this, and he tells the perfect way to do the surgery that will allow her to do it, and it won't it won't hinder her from seeing because of the scarring and everything, so it won't be that difficult as they're thinking that it was going to be. So he saved the day for her, so she's going to be able to do this surgery. So then we see Sean gives so then we see Sean tells Claire he and Carly, so they go up to Dr. Andrews, who's performing, I think, a gallbladder surgery or something he's performing. So they go up to see him, to watch. They're in the gallery and they're looking down, and he's performing the surgery, and he's talking to Claire. Like, Dr. Andrews is coaching Claire, and I think that's the only time we saw him in this episode. But anyways, he's coaching Claire. He's asking her questions, she's answering, and she's trying to focus. But here goes Sean talking about he and Carla have went on a date, and that she answered all his questions, which were like 83 questions. And Clara's like, that is a lot of questions. Like, people know. And he talks about the questions that he asked, which were, if you have children, how many children do you want? Where do you want the children? When do you want the children? And she says that's very deep. So you're supposed to peel an onion, not slice it. So now Sean is freaking out in the gallery because he's like, oh my gosh, maybe I did ask the wrong type of questions. And Claire's freaking out because something happened in the surgery. But of course, Dr. Andrews, who has performed this many times, knew exactly what to do. And Claire is just thinking, like, what if this happens when I do surgery? Am I going to be so quick on my feet to think about it and everything? So this freaks her out, of course. But she tells Sean, because she can't deal with Sean freaking out as well as her own. So she tells him, I'll go and speak to Carly, just to make sure everything's okay between you two. Even though the only reason they think something might be wrong is because they didn't set up another date and they didn't kiss after this date. Okay. So then we see, Then Park and Morgan have a patient, and he has a marlin in his leg. And did y'all recognize the doctor from House and everything? I thought that was neat. But and he's refusing to be separated from this marlin, and the marlin has pierced his leg with the I don't know what it's called, the bill, I believe is what he called it. He's pierced his leg with it, and so they can't remove it because they're afraid of that he'll bleed. They won't be able to stop the bleeding. He'll bleed out if they remove it and everything. So, and plus this man is refusing to have it removed. He doesn't want them messing with it. So Morgan, so as they're talking, Morgan tells Claire about her surgery, and she was like, "I'll help you after studying everything afterwards." But what Claire has just found out before she came into the room is that they actually moved her surgery up. So she was gonna go in like 45 minutes to go ahead and do her surgery, and so she's nervous. Um, but Morgan tells her good luck. So while they're doing this, the Marlin becomes alive, but I guess it's dead, but it starts moving, and the Quentin is the guy, I think that was his name, but he was like, haven't y'all ever seen this, like when it's dead but it gets the movie? Y'all are doctors, and they were like, people don't do this. And then I thought it was funny that Park, they said he was supposed to go get something to kill the Marlin, and he comes back with like like a little bitty oxygen tank. I was like, sir, what are you gonna do with that? So anyways, Claire goes to speak to Michelle, and her mom is her. Okay, so Claire goes to speak to Michelle, the little girl who's gonna have the surgery. She's 14 years old, and her mom is super upset because she's just impatient. So then we find out that Michelle has a lot of responsibilities, because although Michelle is not a foster child, Patricia, Michelle's mom, is that's her biological mom, but the three little girls that are that she has are foster children. So we see that Michelle has a lot of responsibilities, because her mom is like, how long is this surgery going to take? And she says she's been sick for a very long time, so her recovery time is going to take longer than it normally would. And she was like, she didn't tell me she was sick. And I mean, the mom was just like, she can't be sick that long, and she can't be in the hospital that long, because I have to work, and somebody she's using this little girl as a full-fledged second mom or babysitter. Which, okay, we babysit, like, you can babysit your brothers and sisters and stuff some of the time, but like to have to do that every single day, and make sure, like, when Michelle starts talking later, she just explains what all she has to do, and we'll get to that. So then Michelle is just like, Mom, my heart hurts, I can't breathe. So then she's going into cardiac arrest. I mean, well, not cardiac arrest, but something's wrong with her heart. So they get a CT scan and all that kind of stuff. Y'all don't know medical, so they do all that, and they found out, because we go to the next scene and we find out that Michelle, because she was asked earlier, has she been on birth control or anything like that? She said no. And Claire said, when I asked you, you said no. And she said, well, you asked me in front of my little sister Trish. I wasn't going to tell you, she wasn't going to tell her that. So she said, yes, she's being intimate with her boyfriend, and so she doesn't want to get pregnant. So she's been taking birth control. And they said, well, it was a blood clot that started in your leg, and it broke off and went to your heart, and we were able to dissolve it and everything. And they told her, we're gonna give you condoms for your boyfriend, like, because you can't take these birth control pills because they're clotting, giving you blood clots and everything. So then Claire goes to put a catheter in Michelle, and when she does, Michelle jumps, and she's like, what are you doing? And she's like, I have to put this in. And then that's when Claire pulls up the sheet, and she sees cuts on Michelle, and she's asking her, how did this happen? And she says, oh, I jumped a fence. So then we see Claire goes to Michelle's room, and she starts to tell her, like, I know cutting when I see it, and usually people who cut are very unhappy. Talk to me. And Michelle was like, it doesn't matter if I talk to you, nothing's going to change. And Claire says, please, just talk to me, let me know what's going on. And so that's when we find out that Michelle, like, is like the mom. She has to make sure the kids, the three foster kids, she has to make sure they're bathed, fed, homework done. Like, she takes care of those children like she's the mom, and she's resentful for that, because she's like, she didn't ask for this responsibility, and her mom just lays it all on her, and she gets no support and everything. Girl. Oh, sorry. Okay, so then Claire and Dr. Melendez go and speak to Patricia, the mom, and they tell her that her daughter is cutting and everything, and she says no, she's not doing. She's in denial, and then they tell her, like, they just pretty much try to tell her, your daughter needs help. Like, she needs to speak to a psychiatrist. And she looks at Claire and she says, we don't do that, as meaning in black people. And Claire says, we need to stop that. Like, we need to go to therapy. And that is so true. Like, in the black community, it's not as bad as it was, like, when I was growing up, because people have been more open about going to therapy. But in the black community, that is something that's really frowned upon, especially like if you're in these Christian households and everything. They really are just like, you just go to Jesus. And there's nothing wrong with that, but sometimes you need to speak to someone, as well. And I think that, I like the fact that they put that in this episode. Okay, so then we see Dr. Melendez tells Claire, I know you want to help this little girl, but stop being distracted. You got your first surgery you need to worry about. Focus on that. So then Claire she's in this practice room and she's practicing for her surgery. Y'all, Sean tickled me on this part because she's practicing for her surgery and everything. And he tells her, Dr. Lim says that if you sometimes you need to do something else so that you won't overdo it with all the practicing and stuff. Sometimes you need to go outside of that. And he says, talking to Carly might help. I don't know. And I was like, Sean, how you going to try to manipulate Claire to go talk to Carly? But it was a cute thing or whatever. And so she says, I'll talk to her, after I'm done practicing. And he's like, okay. And then he starts telling her everything that could go wrong. And like, you need to practice this because this could go wrong. And you need to practice this because that could go wrong. And you could nick this and you could. And so then he gets her so worked up that she's just like, oh, never mind. Let me go and talk to Carly now. So she goes and she speaks to Carly, and he tells her, and okay, so on her way to go speak to, I'm sorry about that, I had to go and turn my food off. So on her way to go speak to Carly, she hears someone saying, oh my God, wait, did I already talk about it? Oh, I already talked about that. Oh, I brought that up early in the thing. My bad, y'all. I'm already talking about it. Sorry. Oh, so then we see, sorry about that. So then we see Morgan so on her way to go speak to Carly and all that. We see Morgan is helping her practice for surgery, right? And she is, just drilling her on like, what knife would you use? What, that kind of stuff. She's like, why would you help me? And she's like, I'm sucking up because if you become the chief resident, I want, I want you to be on my side, or, she wants her to like her. So then, they're like, cause they trying to put Quentin, the man with the marlin in his leg, in the OR, right? So they get him in the, not OR, MRI. So they get him in there, but he won't, he won't let them do what they need to do to try to help him and get the marlin out of his leg. So anyways, some kind of way, the marlin gets bumped. No, the marlin explodes because of the mercury and being in that room, I guess. It makes the marlin explode. Well, when the marlin explodes, the bill slides out of Quentin's leg. And so when that happens, he starts squirting blood and he passes out. And then Claire has to stick her finger in him to make him stop bleeding. And so then they rush him off to the OR. And so when they rush him off to the OR, Dr. Lynn is there and they perform surgery. They get him stable and everything. So after the surgery, Claire had her hands on him and she tells her, no, he doesn't have, hepatitis, or he doesn't have HIV or any of that kind of stuff. And then Claire just tells Dr. Lynn that she's nervous about her surgery. And she tells her, don't you ever say that again. And she pretty much tells Claire, when you're a minority in this and you're a woman and everything, it's so hard for us. You are going to be okay with this because you've had to work twice as hard as everyone else. You had to be better, twice as good as everyone else. So you already have the leg up on that. don't doubt yourself, and never tell anyone, your chief, anyone, that you're nervous or you're scared or anything about that, or whatever, because they don't need to know that kind of information about that. You hold it in. And Claire was like, okay. She's just like, okay. So then we see Claire and her mom talk. Okay, so Claire's at home, and we see she and her mom are talking, and she starts telling her mom about the patient, because her mom's asking her, who you're doing your first surgery on. And she says that the patient's tough and everything, but she's sexually active. And the mom was like, well, that was about your age. And Claire was like, no, I didn't lose my virginity until sophomore year because I wanted to be special. And her mom was like, well, I'm glad you wanted to be special. But her mom thought, she was like, Mom, if you thought I had lost my virginity early, why would you not have, like, you thought I lost it to this guy, why would you not say anything? And her mom was like, well, you were already so strict and refined. She was always just this, she had it together. And Claire was just like, I had to, because at any moment you could fall apart. So she always had to have it together. So then, after that scene, we see, okay, so then we see Patricia has spoken to Michelle, and she tells Claire she's fine. She doesn't need to speak to a therapist or anything. She's not going to be cutting again. One of her friends at school had, put that dumb idea in her head, but she's good now. And Claire's just like she really needs help. And the mom is adamant about, no, she is not going to, she ain't going to get that help. No, she's not going to speak to a therapist. And so then then Claire goes and speaks to Michelle. And Michelle, she tells her, you didn't tell your mom the truth. And she said, I tried. She didn't want to hear me. Like, I tried to tell her what was going on. And so Claire starts telling her about her mom and how she had to take care of her mom. And because she's, had pills and she's bipolar and all that kind of stuff. And so she says, if you want, I could have a therapist come before your surgery. And Michelle agrees. She would like to speak to someone or whatever, because she looks up to Claire at this point, because Claire tells her that she goes to therapy. She had a therapist. She goes to therapy and everything. And she was like, oh my gosh, but you're like a surgeon, and your life looks so together. And so it's like a bonding moment for them. So then we see, and it's almost over, guys. So then we see Claire tries to eat lunch. Like, she goes and she tries to eat lunch. And here go Morgan and Park sitting down. And she's like, guys, I'm trying to study. And they just keep right on or whatever. So they're talking about their case, and she's ruling. And she was like, no, it's not that. So then when she gets up to leave, because she realizes she's not going to be able to like eat and study with them and practice and study. So she gets up to leave, and then there goes Sean. Like, did you get to speak to Carly? And she's like, no, not yet. I got distracted by another case or whatever. So then she gets paged, and it is Dr. Lim telling her to come to her office. And Patricia is upset that she had Michelle speak to a therapist. So in order for the woman to feel better, she was like, well, Claire, she worded it so that Claire could just agree. She said, did you feel like she was a threat or something and she needed to speak? And Claire says yes. And then so Dr. Lim has to take Claire off the case in order to appease the mom. She was like, well, because we feel like she needed a therapist, or the child requested a therapist, that's fine. Like, it was okay to give her one, but it was not okay for her to allow her to see a therapist without your permission. So because of that, we're going to remove her off the surgery. And so, of course, Claire is devastated. So the next scene, we see her going to see her mom, and they're in therapy, and she tells them that, she was removed off the surgery, and then how the mom is just not trying to help her little girl, and how she feels embarrassed and humiliated and everything. And Claire's mom pretty much tells her, that she admires Claire. Like, anything Claire wants, she just goes after it full speed ahead. She sets her mind to it and she does it. And she says whenever she feels like she can't do something, she just thinks of Claire and she's happy. And she knows that she can. And like she was telling Claire, it's okay for you to be afraid of surgery, because Claire was like, how can I be afraid of this when I've worked so hard for it and I've wanted it for so long? And her mom was like, I want our relationship to work. I've worked hard for that and I've wanted it for so long and everything. But Yeah, so it was just a nice moment between the two of them. They hug it out, and she realized her mom in that moment seemed like she was really trying and everything. Okay. So then so then so then we see Claire goes and she's walking through, and she goes and meets Carla, and she tries to tell Carla, can we talk? Well, she was supposed to meet Carla because she wanted to meet her for lunch, and Claire was like, yeah, meet me at this time or whatever. So she was like, okay, cool. So then Carla mentioned something about cancer, and it gets Claire's mind to thinking. So she goes to Park and Morgan, and she tells them, hey, your guy has cancer in his leg, or whatever. If you check that leg, you will see that, it's cancerous. And um, so then she was talking to them, and then Dr. Liam tells Claire, get here, Michelle, there's a problem with Michelle. So she goes to the room, and Michelle is like crying. She's upset, and she's telling them, I'm not gonna have this surgery if Claire is not the one to do it, Mom. She's telling her mom that, and her mom is like, calm down and everything. And she's telling her, no, you don't have a right to tell me what to do. And so Claire talks to her, and she says, you care about me, so I want you to do my surgery. And Dr. Melendez tries to tell her, we all care about you. But anyways, Claire gets her to calm down. She says, listen, the most important thing is that you get this surgery. It doesn't matter if I do it or not. I'll be there in the gallery watching, so I'll be right there making sure everything goes well and everything. But I need you to sit down. And so, it calms Michelle down. She goes, back into the bed, and she sits down. So then we see that Dr. Lim tells Claire, I had to pull you off the case because if anything went wrong in that surgery, that mom she was a threat that was gonna sue or whatever. And Claire was like, she understood. Like, she was disappointed, but she understood it. So then Dr. Melendez comes up to Claire, and he tells her, she says, does the mom approve me of being in the gallery watching? And he says, no, you can't watch when you're going to do the surgery. And she's like, what? And so he talked to the mom, and he told her, there's no better person to do this surgery that would do everything in their power to make sure everything went smoothly for your child than Claire. And so the mom has agreed to let Claire do the surgery. And Claire's just like, thank you for fighting for me. And he was like, I'm your boss. That's what I do. And it made Dr. Lim look like, stop butting heads or, trying to be so good and everything. Just relax, So then, well, what do we go to next? Okay, so then Claire goes into surgery, right? Oh, so before that, Claire meets up with Carla, and Carla is like, you missed out on lunch. And she's like, oh, my bad. Something came up. And then Claire tells Carla, Sean, just wanted me to make sure everything was okay because he asked you all those questions. And Carla was like, I loved it. Like, I loved that he asked those questions or whatever. And it wasn't, it wasn't these boring, typical date stuff. And so she was happy with the conversation. Like, everybody is different. Like, some people have dates and it's superficial until they get to know each other after a few months and it gets deeper, and some people just click like that or whatever. And she likes Sean. So anyways, she pretty much tells Claire, like, this doesn't sound like Sean to be like, that's not him to be worried about all these questions and stuff. And she was like, oh, well, it's kind of something I had said about not making questions so personal. And Carla pretty much tells Claire, like, all y'all need to butt out. Like, this is our relationship. And honestly, they do. Like, stop giving Sean all this advice. Because I swear, every time all these people give him advice, all they do is make it worse. But I'm actually liking this season for some reason. I don't know why. I guess, I don't know why. But I like it more. This is my favorite season of The Good Doctor. But anyways, so I mean, Claire couldn't do nothing with it. She was like, okay, and walked away. She had to respect that or whatever. So then we see Claire goes into surgery, and she's doing everything good. Everything looks good and everything. And then there's bleeding, and she's like, I can't find it where it is. And Dr. Melendez puts his finger in, and he says, think. What happened? And so then she starts going into her doctor mode, and starts processing and thinking and everything. So her first surgery went very well. So then we see that she goes and meets with Patricia, and she tells her daughter is doing great. The surgery went well and everything. And Patricia says, thank you. And she tells her, her daughter wants to be a doctor now. And Claire's like, she'll make a great one, and it's all because of Claire. She's looking up at Claire like, oh my gosh, I could be this. And so then the mom, Patricia, says, do you still have that therapist number, like the card or something? And so I guess they're going to, as a family and everything, they're going to go to therapy, and she's going to give it to her daughter and let her go to therapy, which is a great thing, So then we see that, and so then we see they go and they tell Claire, you were right, he did have cancer in the leg, and we couldn't, and because the marlin was in there, that actually helped them to find the cancer and that he had in the leg. So his leg did have to be amputated, but he was cool with it because he was like, oh, Franklin, because I think that's what Marlin, he named him Marlin. He was like, oh, Franklin, because if it hadn't been for Franklin, he would have never known he had cancer. And so he was like, you saved me, or whatever. I don't know why that was a cute scene to me, but it was. So then we see Carla and Sean are having their little couch day. You know how they like to eat chips and be on the couch and stuff. So we see that. And before Claire went into surgery, she took a picture and sent it to her mom and was like, it's happening. And then she got a voicemail from her mom, and her mom was just like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited for you. And I made dinner. I'm going to go and get some dessert and all that kind of stuff. Oh my gosh. And then Claire gets a phone call, and she thinks it's her mom because it's from her mom's number. So she's like, hey, and then she's like, what is this? So Claire walks up to so then we see Claire go to this scene where there's clearly been an accident because there's police vehicles everywhere. So I was like, oh my gosh, is her mama getting arrested? What's going on? And so then we see that her mom was in a car wreck, and it looks like it was one vehicle car wreck, and that her mom, I guess, wasn't wearing a seatbelt, so her head hit the windshield, and she's gone. Like, she's gone, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And then we see, so earlier in the episode, when Claire, at the beginning of the episode, Claire had bought this celebratory bottle of champagne, but she had put it up in the cabinet and back, and I guess when her mom was cooking dinner, she found it. So her mom was drinking and driving and stuff, and she killed herself pretty much. And oh my gosh, I was just so heartbroken for Claire on that, because I really do like her. And so I was so heartbroken. Plus, I liked seeing her mom in this. I wish they had let that go on, but I liked seeing her mom in this. So I was so heartbroken. Like, the happiest day of her life is like one of the saddest days of her life. So, but yeah, y'all, that was The Good Doctor. And that was it. And it was a good episode. I will see you next week. Bye.